Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Sandra Wiley, President at Boomer Consulting, and with me today is Jim Boomer. Hey, Jim, thank you for being on the episode today.
Hi, Sandra. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, Jim is the CEO at Boomer Consulting, and today we're going to be talking about the Boomer CAAS Circle. So let's just get started by just asking the question, what in the world is the CAAS Circle? Tell me about that.
It's a good question, and a question we probably get less now because we've been through a few iterations on name for this particular peer community. It is, in the past, has been called the Transformation Circle, the Advisor Circle, the Producer Circle. What we found is the market really asked, what is that? And those names were really intentionally trying to convey the message that it wasn't just about client accounting services. It was also about how we needed to evolve our service lines into advisory and consulting, and that it went beyond the technology. It was about really a business transformation. So, long story short, we settled to go where the market would understand what we're talking about. And it's really the client accounting and advisory services circle. And, you know, we've got these member firms that the whole CAAS journey, it truly is a journey. And so we have firms at the beginning stages just saying, how do I take the first step? And we have firms who have been at this for a couple of years and are looking to scale and grow and take their practice to the next level. And so along with the name change, we're also working on some exciting things to make sure both of those audiences are getting the most amount of value. But in long story short, it's about leaders around the CAAS area coming together, hearing what Boomer Consulting's seeing in the market, but just as importantly, hearing, seeing, experiencing what their peers are doing, what they've tried and what has worked, but also just as importantly, what hasn't, and building those trusted relationships.
I love that. And I love the idea of it being a journey because, that implies that it's never really done. And CAAS is absolutely like that in our profession right now. So, I know that Boomer has lots of different circles out there. So how is this different from peer groups, both ours and others that are out there?
Well, I think really it's the focus on the CAAS area that differentiates it from other Boomer circles. As you look out in the accounting profession, there are several CAAS groups that are in existence. And I'd say there's a few things that really differentiate the Boomer CAAS Circle. The first I'd say is that, we provide those experienced facilitators who also happen to be thought leaders, consultants within the profession. So they're seeing what's going on, they're hearing what's going on, and they're able to bring that they have their finger on the pulse of the profession and what's happening. There's a level of vetting that we do, both on members coming in from the firm side, but also in solution providers that are sponsors. We're looking through those, trying to bring in partners that will provide valuable resources to our firm members. I think the way it's designed is really meant to build those long-term trusted relationships. And trust is something we emphasize, but it's also something we hear in feedback all the time, is the level of trust in this room just is different from other groups where we're sharing. Also accountability, and I'm sure we'll get into structure of meeting later. I'll get into this a little more, but there's an element of both self and peer accountability built in. We really try to align the overall firm strategy with different business functional areas so that you're not all working in silos, but together. And I mentioned our sponsors and our solution providers. That's also an important part of it. We're not just signing them up so they can come sell stuff. They are coached and they are chosen because they're going to come in there and add value to the discussions. They're going to build relationships, and they give you a resource when you have questions and challenges that you can go to.
I hear what you're saying. I love the relationship part. I think that is what's kind of missing for a lot of practitioners out there, particularly if you're kind of the only within your circle, or within your firm. And CAAS leaders sometimes are kind of a lonely place. They're the person that's taking care of all of this. I also really love the fact that Boomer does vet both our sponsors and the participants. So we make sure the right people are in the room. And I just think that's such an important part of this. But, if you take all of that and you're thinking about it, so kind of make yourself feel like you're in the room. So what is that feeling in the room when you're facilitating and when all of those people are interacting? What do you think that feels like for people?
Well, I think having been through several circles and several CAAS circles, I think it's always an element of excitement, because sometimes when you're facing a bunch of challenges, obstacles, or you have opportunities that you don't know how to act, it can kind of be a feeling of scary. Then you get in a room and you're not alone, and there's others working together and collaborating. And that only comes from, again, that trust and building that sense of trust, which then allows people to feel open to share and collaborate. And it truly does become a collaboration.
Yeah.
And so the level of sharing, again, going back to feedback we hear from both firm members and sponsors, is the level of sharing is at a whole nother extreme compared to a lot of other places.
I would imagine some people who might be listening right now would be going, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need." And I would imagine there's a few others that say, "Yikes, what is expected of me when I am sitting in that room?" Because it sounds like the expectations are higher than maybe some of the other groups that they have been in before, or other spaces and places that they have been. So what does Boomer expect out of the people that are participating and sitting in that room?
Well, I think number one is just be engaged. Be engaged with your mind, be engaged with your physical body language.
Yeah.
And I think coming in with the mindset that you recognize that you don't know it all, and that you have something that you can learn from others, is an important part of that. And that is where the willingness to share comes out. And really what most of our members find is the more you give, the more you get back from your peers. And almost every time you're going to end up getting more than you give at each meeting. And then again, emphasizing the relationship piece of it. Like, lean into building relationships with your peers and with the solution providers. And we've designed it so there's touch points throughout the year. So it's not like we expect you to build a relationship when you only meet once a year. And I can't remember, what was your name again? So it really does foster those long-term trusted relationships.
I really enjoy that interaction that people have. I'm sure that you've heard this too. I've heard some people that we've talked to that said, "I feel like I'm going to go and I'm not going to have anything to contribute." And then there's another group of people that say, "I don't know, maybe I have too much to contribute." Do you ever see there being a really big problem with not having anything to share? I think that's the biggest issue that people have is, what if I go and I just sit there and I'll absorb a lot, but I'm not going to be able to share anything? Do you ever see that really happening in the circle?
Honestly, not much, but you can't say never.
Yeah.
And and some of it's just, personality and shyness, and I want to feel it out first. But what we find is even those people that come to a meeting and are pretty quiet on the first one, is the level of discussion and thinking and collaboration lifts them up. And by meeting two, they're fully engaged and they're
Yeah.
not quiet anymore. So If it does happen, which isn't the norm, it's usually a pretty short-term thing.
Yeah, maybe one meeting or something,
Yeah.
and they're all into it. So talk to the audience about what happens at every meeting. What's the format? What does it kind of look like? The shell kind of look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned the accountability piece. And really what that is, we start every meeting with a look back at what progress have you made. And it requires you to think personally and then share with a small group of your peers. So that's where you get into the peer accountability. And then we end every meeting with you having some time to think and build a plan for what you're going to do with the information. We go to plenty of events, and some of them were just like, that was really great information, but then you don't go back and do anything with it.
Yeah.
So first step is think about it. Second is write it down. And then third is tell someone. So accountability is key. We design the agenda with a combination of presentation, group breakouts, and overall group discussion. And so it's not just being talked at the whole time. There's a lot of interactive elements to it. And there's a lot of peer sharing. Again, there's that word of sharing it, whether it's through the roundtables or some of our circle meetings will do show and tell, like bring something cool that you've done in your practice or your organization that others might find value in. And that's an area where at first glance people go like, I don't have anything to share. And then they come up with something, and those are usually the greatest things that came out of the meeting, were the ones that people were hesitant because they didn't think it was cool enough.
Right.
And it's actually pretty amazing idea.
I think that I have seen that too in some of our meetings. And it is fun to watch the kind of the magic happen in the room when people talk about something that honestly they've been hesitant to, like everybody probably knows this already. And then they show and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I need a copy of that. And can you give me some help on how to get started? And you can just see that magic happen. And it's pretty cool. One of the things that I think about during this meeting is, or any of the meetings that we have, is how in the world do you choose the topics? And, what changes at every meeting? Because it does sound like there's a framework there, but there's obviously new information that we infuse into that. So how does that happen?
Well, our goal is to create an agenda that is very timely topics. So we actually develop each agenda based on a combination of input from the meeting or the members at the last meeting. We actually dedicate a little bit of time to talk about what should be on the next agenda. And then we take that in, we have an advisory board that we work with to then say, what are the things, it's a balance of what the members want to talk about and what we have chosen that they need to talk about. So sometimes it might not have been something that they voted up as a top topic, but it's something that's very important right now. And so we put that on the agenda as well.
I love that. You mentioned an advisory board. How do you choose your advisory board? How does that happen?
Well, we try to really create a mix of different types of members in longevity, in how engaged they are, how far along. So we're getting different perspectives, but really it's just a subset of the group that we go and ask if they'd be willing to serve, and we try to rotate that. So usually it's somewhere between 3 and 5 of the members, or that smaller group, that we are a sounding board for us of agenda, but also if we're thinking about making some tweaks to how we run the meeting, or anything related to the circle, they're a great resource to bounce things off of and get feedback.
Perfect. So our audience has been listening. I'm sure that you've piqued their their thought process, and they're thinking, maybe I should attend. I'm not sure. So who should attend? Who's the audience that's coming to the CAAS Circle?
Well, the CAAS Circle was built for those firm leaders who are responsible for either building out or scaling and growing the CAAS service line. And that's CAAS with 2 A's for the accounting and advisory services. And then, it's usually two people from each firm. And so there are also a lot of team members who are playing an active role in the execution of the firm's CAAS plan as well to bring it to fruition. So it's both the leaders, but also the active team leads and team members that are participating in the day-to-day.
That sounds great. And I hope the audience is paying attention and taking some notes. And we really hope that you will make a decision to be a part of this CAAS communities that we have. So Jim, thank you so much for your time today. And audience, thank you so much for joining us today. Listeners, if you enjoyed our topic, look out for new episodes every Tuesday morning. We like to rotate the topics and the themes, but the common theme among the episodes is that we believe these issues are critical to your firm's growth and success. So please subscribe, and thanks so much for listening, and everyone have a fantastic day.